Hey guys, welcome back to How to Escape. This is Rowrena, and today we're going to be talking about swollen lug nuts on your 2013 and up Ford Escape. We'll be going over how to remove them as well as some reliable aftermarket single-piece lug nuts replacements. Let's get started. So what do we mean when we say the lug nuts swell? If you look at this lug nut, it's pretty battered up. The flat faces are no longer preserved, the corners are kind of rounded out, but this underside here seems really well preserved. Well, that's because this is a steel core right here with a chromed cap that wraps around the corner here. You can kind of see it there. Well, this cap swells and wears out over time, and you get to the point where your factory lug wrench will no longer fit over that lug nut. And when you really are trying to force it, you can see the top here, how it just strips out the top corners, and then it deforms this even more. Now, if you go to a shop, sometimes you'll get a bill at the end of your procedure charging you for a whole new set of lug nuts, and you'll be like, well, why? And well, this is why. So I'm going to do a quick teardown and just show you what this cap looks like. I'm going to be taking a Dremel here and just cutting it off. So as you can see, this is kind of just like a thin shell that crimps around the actual steel core of the lug nut. Now the threads of the lug nut are great because it's solid steel and it's going to hold on to the stud just fine. But how are you supposed to get your lug nut off if this outer cap deforms so badly? You take it to a shop using impact drivers and it just destroys the heck out of these things. But you have this really nice structure underneath. Why not just keep the one-piece housing?
Because these lug nuts have proven to be troublesome in the past, we're going to go over the next 3 methods so that you can know what to do beforehand or if you're currently in an emergency. Tools needed for this method include a 19mm flip socket, a 1/2-inch socket extension, and a 1/2-inch socket wrench or breaker bar.
So the first recommendation if the lug nuts on your Escape are swollen is to get one of these. This is a CTA 4221 19mm base flip socket. Now on the top it has an 18.5mm and on the bottom it has a 19.5. Now these lug nuts are 19mm standard, but when they swell and you have your 19mm impact, that won't fit over it. That's the beauty of this, because the 19.5 will fit right around it. And then you get a 1/2-inch extension, plug it right in, and then do your magic. And it even comes right out. This is a go-to and a must-have tool if you are starting to get any type of swollen lug nuts on your Escape. The Amazon link's below. It's less than 20 bucks. And if you have the time to wait for it to arrive, I would highly recommend getting it.
Tools needed here are a 19mm impact socket, a softwood plank and a hammer, and a punch or a ram smaller than the socket drive.
Of course, the next option is to just use brute force. Again, if this is your 19mm impact and it won't really go on the socket, in order to not destroy your impact, get a piece of wood, get a hammer, tap it on there, get your breaker bar, get it out. But then, of course, since you hammered it on there, you can't use this tool again without ramming it from the other side. Now, take a wild guess what happens when you do that. Because if I just take a bolt, hit it in here, you end up denting your lug nut and destroying it cosmetically. Now, yes, you did get it off, so they got the job done, but you're going to start destroying your lug nuts even worse.
Tools needed for this method include a large and small flathead driver, a hammer, a rag, needle nose pliers, and an 18mm socket.
I'm going to demo removing the cap with the Chisel Method. It's always risky here though, because you're literally chiseling around your rim, and I would not recommend it because you do have a high risk of chipping the finish on your rim. But first, we're going to start off with penetrating the front. And then I'm going to use the bigger one. And then now as I work my way around the side, I'm going to try and stay as close to the nut as I can so I don't scratch the rim. So right now I'm just going to use this rag here. I'm going to support the corner of the screwdriver so I don't damage my rim. Because I want to aim it up so I can chisel through that sidewall there. I'm going to chisel up and crack this part. A pain. I would not recommend it, and it's cosmetically damaging to your rim. So don't do this if you can absolutely avoid it. Get the half-step socket.
We recommend upgrading to a single-piece lug nut as soon as possible in case of an emergency where you may need to remove your wheel. At least consider getting the flip socket if your lug nuts are starting to show signs of swelling. All of that being said, the 19.5mm flip socket is obviously the best choice for this job. But in case you do not have that tool and you are currently in an emergency, you now know of the brute force method and the chiseling removal to get these lug nuts off. These, of course, will have cosmetic damaging effects, but you will get your lug nuts off.
So the lug nuts I've chosen to replace the factory ones with are these ones by Eisen Performance. Just want to let you know I'm not sponsored or anything by these guys. I just ordered it off Amazon for this video. It had a lot of really good reviews. It's single piece. It has a nice chrome coating. The one thing they say is they recommend not using an impact driver to get these guys on because of the chrome finish. But again, these lug nuts only require 100 foot-pounds of force to go on. But I mean, look how nice that is. It's single piece. It's very nicely coated. It's very similar to the factory design, so you're really not going to notice a difference, except that you'll be able to actually get this lug nut off in the future. Even if you end up scratching up the chrome a little bit, it's still going to look factory and you're going to be able to remove it with your stock tools. So this is also a 19mm head. We're going to be replacing all of the factory acorn shaped nuts with these single piece nuts from Eisen Performance. Because we're just replacing the lug nuts and we're not actually changing a spare tire right now, I'm not going to use the jack to lift the car off the ground. What I am going to do is I'm going to crack each of these loose a little bit, and we're going to replace one lug nut at a time. So you can see how that's all rounded out, and we're going to replace it with our Eisen Performance one. Look, shiny. Ooh. All right, so here we have our single piece aftermarket lug nuts installed in replacement of the OEM swollen design here. I'm a big fan of how they went on. I'm a big fan of how they look like the factory ones, and I know that I'll be able to get them off in the future in a tight spot, and I know that a shop will be able to get them off with the expected tools as well. The other alternative to these Eisen lug nuts are lug nuts by Megard. That's another highly regarded one in the Ford Escape community. The benefit there is that they come with an actual key that's added security for your lug nuts. So if you have really expensive aftermarket rims or something, that's a way to protect it. I, again, prefer to be able to use the factory tools like the lug wrench to get them off. So that's why I went with the Eisen ones, and they're a little bit less expensive as well. So I'll link the Megard lug nuts and the Eisen lug nuts, as well as that half-step socket down in the description below, as well as our Amazon storefront. Let me know if you've gotten in a tight spot with any of these factory lug nut issues and how you may have gotten around them in the comments below, and we will talk about it then. Thanks a lot for watching How to Escape. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.